Good day everyone, Trainer Maxim with you. Thank you very much for joining me for this quick fix series. Today we're going to address the crunches. As always, before we start, I thank everyone who supports my channel. Thank you very much guys and girls for your comments, suggestions, for watching my videos. Thank you, appreciate it. Of course, your generosity, super thanks. And my support angels. Really, I thank you all guys and girls. Thank you. Now let's have a look at the crunches, a very popular exercise to condition the core. However, we need to keep in mind that crunches don't really condition the core because the core consists of four muscles: rectus abdominis, your desirable six-pack muscle, obliques, internal, external, and transverse abdominis. Those four muscles are the core. Crunches are designed to condition only the front of the core, the rectus abdominis. And a lot of times I see a couple of versions of crunches at the gym. Let me first demonstrate, and after we will discuss why we don't really like those versions. Often I'm observing people at the gym doing these versions. They go like this, hands behind the head, and they perform crunch up to this point. 1, 2, 1, 2. And very often they might go even higher to perform sit-ups. First crunch, and after sit-up. Doing it quite fast. 1 and 2 and 3. And often they go for reps, 20, 40, 50, 100 reps. Often legs can be held in the air or on the bench, or somebody else might be holding your feet and etc. to perform these crunches. But the common feature of those crunches is that everyone does it in this way, completely crunching the spine, or therefore crunches, I guess. But we don't really like this variation. We don't really like to crunch spine a lot. And by the way, fun fact, the American military, Navy, and Marine Corps, they actually excluded sit-ups from their physical tests and physical preparedness activities. They favored planks versus crunches. And there is a reason for that. They actually discovered that crunches were more injury prone in terms of the back injuries. And here is why. If we have a look at the spine, we have a lot of spinal muscles attached to it. And spinal muscles are often jump from one vertebra to another, from here to here, here. And if we talk about even deeper spinal muscles, then they're definitely attached only two vertebrae to one another. So they will be jumping from here to here, here to here. And they're quite tiny muscles. So now what's happening when you round the spine? Look at this. Let's say this is my spine. And I'm going to do the crunch. 1. And you can see from here how much I increase the distance between two vertebrae here. Well, that means that I'm really pulling on the deeper spinal muscles here. And those muscles are tiny. They don't really like being stretched to this extent because they all have tendons on both ends. And if you stretch them a little bit more, you might pull on the tendon. And as you know, tendons can be a little bit sensitive while stretching. And once you pull on that tendon too hard, once you cause some even micro little damage to the tendon or to the muscle next to that tendon, then the central nervous system will go nuts on you. The central nervous system will tighten those muscles in that vicinity of the spine. And why? It's a reflex to protect you, because the brain thinks, the central nervous system thinks that you have a damage here, which you might, very mild. And with the damage here, it's very detrimental for your health to keep mobilizing this area. So the brain will be sending a lot of electrical activity into the spinal muscles to essentially spasm them, to make them as hard as possible in order to immobilize this area. And only this area, not the upper area, not the lower area, but it might be only this area, or here. So for that reason, when it happens, we feel quite a sharp pinch either here, or here, or here, and that immobilizes us for a long period of time. Why? Because spinal muscles don't like being stretched. They don't object to being compressed. You can see in gymnastics a lot of times, or acrobatics, people do the contortionist stuff when they really shorten the muscles and go in the opposite direction. That's not also favorable for the spine, but it's more, brain definitely has more tolerance for that activity other than for the stretch, because The stretch activity really challenges the limit of those muscles by expanding the distance between two vertebrae. And there are a lot of muscles here. So when you're performing crunches, you're constantly pulling on those muscles, and at some point it might snap at some point. And that's why we don't really want that activity to happen. We don't really want to stretch the spinal muscles every time you do the crunch. Yes, you will be conditioning the front of the core, fantastic, but actually the front of the core is not that important as the spinal muscles. Spinal muscles we use all the time for all the activities. Core, sometimes we don't really need the core to be very active, especially one muscle of the core, the front of the core. And the second reason why we don't like these crunches, we're not conditioning the spinal muscles or the shoulder muscles to work in coordinated fashion with the core. What I mean by this, when we go down on the floor, we place the hands behind the head, shoulders typically forward, so it's not the open shoulders. Shoulders extremely protracted, further round in the upper spine. Also, the spine becomes rounded. It means that the spinal muscles are not really working. We don't care about them, so we let them be absolutely stretched. There is no tone in that muscle left, and we facilitate in the activity of the front of the core, activity of this muscle. After you've done hundreds of those crunches for a prolonged period of time, the brain starts learning that whenever the front of the core is being activated, then the spinal muscles are being deactivated and the shoulder muscles are being deactivated. So in other words, you're developing a habit of deactivating your shoulders and the spinal muscles whenever you tense the front of the core excessively. And that's exactly what we don't want under any circumstances, not for push-ups, not for boxing, not for handstands, gymnastics, dancing, or even everyday activities. We really want to get a habit of using the core muscles in coordinated fashion with the work of the spinal muscles and the shoulder muscles. Meaning that whenever we engage the core, we would like the spinal muscles to hold its position, to hold its ground, and not let the spine go completely crunched. We really want to maintain the tone in the back muscles when the core or the front of the core is engaged. And exactly the same thing we want for the shoulders. We don't want the shoulders to collapse all the time when you engage the core. For that reason, let's perform the different version of the crunches. Similar but slightly different. For that version, we want to maintain the spine tall. You all know what tall spine means. When the upper back is reaching up, lower back is reaching down. Essentially, we're stretching the spine between two forces we created with the spinal muscles. So it looks like this. Lower spine reaches down, upper spine reaches up. Or when you're on the floor, then the upper spine is reaching this way, lower spine is reaching that way. In the second, we want the shoulders open. Shoulders open means that at all time, shoulders are not collapsed, no protraction whatsoever. We really want to activate the lower trapezius here and the serratus anterior muscles here, so that the blades, not even the shoulders, because the shoulder is a compound of the body parts, but the blades, the scapulus, we want the scapulus to be slightly tilted back and down diagonally to the mid portion of the spine, midsection, to activate lower trapezius here, and the inner edge of the blades pressed aggressively into the rib cage with the serratus anteriorus, so that every time you're here, your shoulders are not closed completely, but still staying open. Just like for the handstands or any other activities, shoulders open, spine tall. By keeping the spine tall, that stretch kind of position, not stretch, but reached out towards the ceiling, towards the floor, or that direction, we will be maintaining the tone in all the spinal muscles which are holding vertebra to vertebra. In essence, they're going to glue vertebrae together to provide some structure of the spine, some mild activation of the spinal muscles. And so we'll be doing the shoulder muscles. Shoulder muscles will be keeping the blades in the open position, so that when we engage the core, we send the signal to the brain like, hey, when we work with the core, we're really okay with the tone in the shoulder muscles and the spinal muscles. We don't want to lose it. so that we can incorporate the core into our everyday activities. Otherwise, if you condition the brain to let the spinal muscles go and the shoulder muscles go all the time you engage the core, then whenever you bend over to take anything off the floor, you will be dealing with this situation. Rounded back completely, shoulders forward, and now, God forbid, you need to lift something heavy off the floor with the rounded muscles. Muscles of the back are already stretched, already under the tension, and now you're going to lift a heavy weight, like with the bad form deadlift, when some people lift the heavy weights with very rounded backs. The muscles are already stretched, and now the weight affected by the gravity stretches it even more, so chances of injuries are high here. We don't want it. We want to condition the brain to be able to use the core muscles with the maintained activation of the spinal muscles and the shoulder muscles. So when in everyday activity, during the everyday activity, you go and pick something off the floor, you do it in this way. Yes, mild activation of the core here, you might still slightly bend in the stomach, but not collapsing the entire spine, not letting the shoulders go forward, and etc. So now, let's see how to condition that. It's going to be super simple. You just have to lie down on the floor in this fashion and make sure that the pelvis is not pushed forward, because if the pelvis is pushed forward into the aggressive posterior pelvic tilt, it means your spine is not neutral. You're not reaching away with the lower spine. So let's fix it by reaching away with the lower spine. One, that's not arching, looks like arching. I'm not arching, because you can definitely exaggerate it by doing more arching. We don't want it. The excessive arching, when you think arch, will exaggerate only the activity of the portion of small segment of the spine here. Extra activity, we don't want it. We'd rather think reach away, so that all the muscles of the mid lower spine become activated this way, not only the small portion of the lower back muscles. So think reach away with the upper spine. This is your neutral spine. You can see I have mild neutral arch in the lower back. That's how the spine is designed. That's what we like. Now we go and place the hands under behind the head. We maintain the shoulders open. So we're not doing this. Shoulders tilted diagonally down back, and with the serratus anterior, kind of pressing the inner edge of the blade into the spine. So into the rib cage, opening the shoulders. As a result, you'll be lying like this. Your elbows naturally will be here, not in front of you. And do not fake it, please, because you can collapse the shoulders and push the arms sideways, because it's a sign of a good open shoulders. That would be fake. We need the elbows to be naturally placed sideways due to the open shoulder position, open scapulas. One, and I did nothing to move my elbows that way, just because upper arm, for some unknown reason, is attached to the shoulders turning, the arms turning, the upper arms turning. So shoulders open, spine tall, and from this position, you're just thinking the rib cage going strictly to the ceiling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. That will be just enough to condition the core. You can see how with this technique I'm keeping my arch intact. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It means that every time I'm engaging the core muscles here, the front of the core, my spinal muscles are still active, not letting the spine collapse. Otherwise I would be doing this. 1, and everything is going off the floor, excessive crunch, no spinal activity, no shoulders, no anything. And also in my head, when I do 20 reps, I'm not just going through the motion, I'm going through the cues. Spine tall, shoulders open, spine tall, shoulders open, spine tall, shoulders open, spine tall, shoulders open, spine tall, shoulders open. I know, sounds annoying, especially with my accent. But we need to condition the brain in the first place, not actually the muscles. Your muscles are fine. We need to develop that strong habit of maintaining the activation of the spine and the shoulder muscles whenever you engage in the core. Otherwise, you'll be collapsing every time you engage the core in the handstand. Shoulder will go this way. Spine will be crunching or boxing or any other activity. And yes, my upper spine is a little bit rounding because of the front core activity. You're absolutely correct to notice it. my upper spine tiny bit rounded, but that roundness is happening through my desire still to reach away with the upper spine. In a way, I do the following. I'm keeping the activity in the spinal muscles. I'm keeping the tone. And I'm engaging the core while keeping this tone. So now the core is working against the back muscles. And when the upper back muscles are maintaining that their engagement while the core is pulling down, first of all, the crunch is not going to be as aggressive. You're not going to go completely in this arched position, collapsing the shoulders. You're just going to go in this mild arch, because the muscles of the upper spine are active. They're providing you some support of this movement. So now you can really feel the engagement of the core, because the upper muscles are providing you with some feedback how much you can engage the core. And also, when the upper spinal muscles stay inactive, that will help you keep your shoulders in more open position. Otherwise, the moment the upper spine collapses like this, one, the shoulders affected by the gravity, they will want to go down to the floor. And that's how we collapse the entire posture, for the sake of conditioning just one front core. That's not good. And also it develops a habit of letting everything go whenever the core engages. We don't like it. So one more time, let's go through the cues. Spine tall, shoulders, and with this setup we go down the floor. You can place the legs here or here, or just keep them on the floor. Arms, elbows sideways because the shoulders are open, not because you push them. From this position, you start your cues. Spine tall, shoulders open, core. Spine tall, shoulders open, core. And also notice how my chin is not going down to the chest, because my upper spine is not collapsing, and my head, again, for unknown reason, is attached to this spine. It's not going this way, so my spine stays neutral in the very top portion of it. And I'm conditioning my core quite nicely, and also I'm developing a habit of engaging my front core without losing my neutral spine, without losing my open shoulders, without nodding excessively. So I'm developing I'm developing a good posture. And during the everyday activity, whenever I want to get more support from the core, to brace the core, let's say, I will be doing slightly of this, if I want it, and not this. So that's the main difference between the first version we don't like and the second. I think you got pretty good idea. Please try it at the gym and let me know how it went. That is it for today. Thank you very much for your attention. Join me for the next video this week, and I will see you later, guys. Go enjoy your week. Thank you very much. Bye bye.